Hi, can you hear me?
Hey, Jim. Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, hello, everyone, again. Welcome to this Inventor user group. Today's presenter is Jim Dumont, our applications engineer. My name is Juliana. I work in marketing here at MicroCAD. This will be an interactive session. So all of you, I will be granting all of you 1 second access so you can participate, ask any questions, or share whatever ideas you want to. This is what this is for. You can also ask a question at any given point on the right-hand corner, sorry, left. So yeah, without further ado, Tim, go
Hi,
ahead.
thanks. All right, so it is the Inventor user group. So I am using wearing my Inventor hat that I got from Autodesk University a few years ago. So again, this is our user group. So I'd like to hear from you. I'd like some input. We Autodesk just had the Autodesk University just a few weeks ago. Please let me know if any of you have gone this past year. I'd like to get some input as far as how many of you that have on the session today actually went.
I'm granting them access, so I think they will be able to talk in a minute.
Okay. I was not able to attend this year, so I would like to get some input as far as who went and what they thought of it.
Does anybody have any insights? Did anybody go? How was it? Please let me know if you're not able to talk. I already granted you all access to participate. So let me know. Please let us know your thoughts. What did you think? And if you have anything in general to share about the new Inventor 2023, that's what we're here for as well.
Yes, this is a user group, so it's all about the user. So anything you need to know, want to know, any questions you want to ask, now is the time to do it. We'll answer as much as we can. I do see I have a colleague that's online as well. So if there's anything I can't answer, I'll reach out to Phil. Phil Marshall is here. And I see a lot of new names. So welcome those of you that are new to the user groups. This is, unfortunately, it is web-based. We're trying to be as interactive as possible, and hopefully soon we'll be going back to being live and traveling back to different cities, and most likely be doing like the Mid-Atlantic region like once a year. So we're trying to get back out there live and in person again. So any questions, anything you need to know? It could be anything. It doesn't be about Inventor, but Autodesk subscriptions, anything like that. We've got good resources here, so try to answer your questions.
What is the subject matter of the day?
So today, I typically go by trends. And as I talk and travel and see customers and upgrade and do different things, I see things that they're struggling with. And the one I've been seeing the last few months is actually taking files and copying. So I'm going to be focused on copy design today in the different ways, different aspects, and some of the pitfalls and some of the ways that we should be doing it. I'm surprised even after all this time, I'm still seeing a lot of people struggle with the copy design. Now, the other thing in the user group, you guys have the ability to comment. Any new topics for the next one that you want to see, please get that down, and Juliana can actually get a list, and we can focus on trying to hit those items in the future user group meetings. So we want to hear from you, content you're looking for, but I typically go by trends and what I see. Okay. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to be talking about copy design and some of the ways that people actually approach it. I'm going to share my screen. And let's share this guy and then get this out of the way. Okay, do we see Inventor on the screen, everyone? I don't see what I'm sharing, so I want to make sure that we're seeing, everyone can see my Inventor session. All right. This is a typical part file in a drawing. Not even going to talk about Vault right now. Just, you know, some of the ways that people are doing this. And I really want to hear from you. So when you see things like, you know, Jim, I can't believe you're doing it that way. I'm going to be building to the better strategies, but I'm going to show you some ways that people are doing this. So this is a part it's complete, it's finished, you know, it's going to be quote unquote released. I don't want to touch this, but I want one just like it. And I'm going to deviate slightly. We kind of call that same as except. So I'm going to start with something that already exists and then go from there. So one thing that I see even today quite a bit is they'll open up the part file. They'll do save as, save copy as, and they'll create a brand new file. So we'll call this sub MTC, we'll call it JRD. So that's my part file. Not a big deal, that works. And then we'll go to the drawing file, and then we'll do a file, save as, save copy as, and I'll come in here and make this a JRD. You would think that would do it. I'm going to close this file. And I'm going to open up the brand new file that I just created. Here's my JRD. The problem is, because I just did a copy, I didn't change the reference. This drawing is still referencing the original part. You can see it over here. JRD is referencing the MTC. I now have to stop what I'm doing, remember to do this. Manage, replace model reference, and I have to replace the old model with the new model. And now I can work. So this is one way of doing that is, you know, doing it manually. You're doing a save copy as, opening the files and replace the model reference. Now you can do this. Part files, you can also do this with assemblies. It's just a lot of work and it can be really confusing as far as what files have you done, what files have you not done, and making sure that each file references the appropriate one. You know, it's got to be right on. Otherwise, you're going to have so many mistakes and so many different files, and you might be editing a file that you really shouldn't be. We'll talk about that later when we get into Vault and with released files. So this is the manual way of just using the copy, save as. I could copy using Windows. It doesn't matter how you copy the files. You got to copy, you have to open the drawing and replace the model reference. All right, so I'm going to close this file. One of the other strategies, where is it? There it is. So that's the new file that I created. Here's my original file. Those of you may have never seen this before. This has been around for years, even before Vault. It's Design Assistant. Design Assistant is in the Windows menu, and that's there only because you installed Inventor, and that's part of it. It's one of the things that it does when you install. Design Assistant is a tool that we used to use before we had Vault in order to do this. So if you've never seen this before, I don't recommend it because it's actually very, it's clumsy. It's not intuitive. But again, if you don't have Vault, this is the strategy that you want. It's much better than doing the save as. So I'm going to walk through this. So here's my part file. I'm going to change my action to copy. All right, so that's my action. Hasn't done anything yet. I want to copy it. And my subfolder is fine. And my name, I'm going to change the name. And we'll just change this to Phil's here. So we'll do PM. Okay, so that's my part file. But what about the drawing? The drawing does not go along for the ride. That's what this secondary search is for. I have to find files in here. So I'm going to find files that are in this area right here. I need to know if there's any IPNs, IDWs, DWGs, maybe some derived parts, and I want them to be act accordingly. So I'm going to, actually, I just want the IDWs. Find files. Let me clear that. Yeah, that's my original file. It should have been, see, it's already confusing. Which one is it, right? I got the JRD And it shouldn't have the two of them in there. It should be just the MTC. I'm going to start this over once more. Let me get out of this. And just going to make sure that these files reference the correct files. MTC is MTC. That's good. And JRD. That's why I didn't save the file. So again, these are the pitfalls. Replace model reference. Guys weren't watching. Save
It's
that.
fairly a new feature for me.
Design assistant.
No. The replacing the model within.
Oh, if you replace the model reference.
Yes.
Okay, good. That can still be handy to a certain point, but using Vault, it becomes less useful. All right, so let's try this once more. Here's my MTC. I'm going to copy this using my design assistant. And I'm going to copy. All right, so that's my, that was my part number. I'm sorry. I need that. I forgot to actually change the part number, so that's good. I'm going to find my files. I don't need that. There it is. It was actually the part number was throwing me off, so this is good. So I'm copying the model. Now I have to copy the drawing. And I have to change the name here. PM. It doesn't change this. I got to change this name as well. And all looks good. And now I can actually hit save. It updates the file. And then I can close or just exit the application. And if I do a refresh, I'll see my PM file. Then if I double click on it, it should reference the appropriate model. So that is using the design assistant. If you don't have Vault, and some people have, even though they have Vault, the Vault Professional, sometimes the copy design is a little overwhelming. So they tend to go back to what they know. So these are the things that's why we're doing this today. We need to get you to do this properly. All right, so we have that. Now I copied it. So the next thing Phil has to do, he's got to change the drawn by. He's got to eliminate the check by and manufactured approved by and approved by date. Because this file was copied from an existing original release file. It might have all these properties filled in. So we're going to copy it. But then the next strategy is you have to go in and start clearing those fields. So you're going to go to status and you're going to get rid of this. You got to shut that off, get rid of that, shut that off. And now it goes back to 2010. I got to change that. So right now the creation date is here. I'm going to shut this off. I can drop this down and then do today. It'll bring in today's date, which is helpful. And the designer, it's going to be me. And also the author is going to be me. So now I'm at a good starting point. So I copied the file, but now I'm taking ownership. Or Phil would do this. He's taking ownership of the file. So there's a lot of picks and clicks. Copying a file is one thing, but if you're using a lot of metadata, that information has to be reset. So you're starting over and starting from scratch. Okay, make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna shut this down and save it. Now, what about an assembly file? So we get into here. Actually, let's go over to here. Here's a little cylinder clamp. Now, I can do the same thing with assemblies. So this is going to show me the part numbers, right? And I'm seeing Content Center, which I do not want to copy. So you have to decide if this is an assembly that maybe you want to copy everything except for Content Center files, and you're truly going to change everything, that's fine. So you have to be very specific in what you're doing. So my action is I'm going to copy the assembly. Obviously, I want the top level assembly. And let me see, I think Now I can't add the thumbnail to this. This is where it's a little confusing which one's which. You'd have to know that ahead of time. So I went to preview and did my assembly. You know, I could see it. I could see the components. So I could decide if I don't want anything. So if I don't want the base, right? So there's my cylinder, all my components, my clamps. Let's say I don't want the clamp. So I'm going to, actually the clamp is going to be copied. So that's the only thing I want. So I want to change the clamp. So I'm going to copy the assembly and the clamp. Go back to my manage, copy that. And I already forgot what the clamp was. I need the part number because the cylinder clamp is not the part number. It's 008. So you can see it's really clumsy to be doing this. Manage 8 is what I want. So I'm going to copy this, copy that. I have to change my name. I'll just call this 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. Now, what about the drawings? If there's a drawing of the assembly, if there's a drawing of the clamp, I need those as well. I got to find those. Okay, in this particular case, there aren't any, but if there were, they'd be listed here. I have to do the same thing. Copy, copy, change their name, and then when I'm done, hit save. I can close this, and now in Inventor, or in the cylinder clamp, you'll see over here, I've got a new assembly. And under the components, I have a new component. So it copies, it creates some references them together. So they're using Design Assistant to do that. And a long time ago, this tool was just, you know, it was given a different name. It was Design Aggravator because it just was so clumsy to use. But the better tool to use, and I think hopefully most of you are on here, I'd like to also ask a question. Please either chat or chime in if anyone is not using Vault. I'd like to know how many people we have online today that are not using Vault. And it doesn't matter if it's Vault Basic or Vault Professional. I'm just curious if there's anyone on not using it. All right, so I'll wait for Liliana to give me some input on that. So now what I want to do is I want to take advantage of the software that we have. Vault Basic, if you are not using it, it comes with the product design collection. You really want to take advantage of this. It doesn't cost anything other than setting it up and configuring it, but the advantages that you get are incredible. So what I want to do is I want to look at how I would do this using Vault. I'm going to close this. So typically you would see like this, you'd see 2 tabs. Now, these are called palettes or browsers. I can take this out of here and I'd like to be able to see the information. And that's how I set mine up like this. So I can see my model browser as I work normally in Inventor. And below here is my Vault browser. I can see my interaction. I can see if the file's checked in, checked out to someone else. I know what's going on with this file all the time. So I'm going to check this in. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to check it in. So the file's checked in. And then what I'm going to do, come over to here. I'm going to go to the Vault. And let's say that this is complete. It's finished. So I'm going to change the state to released. Okay. Now, in the background, the system is actually going to run because I released it. It's going to synchronize properties. It's going to create the visualization file. It's going to create a PDF file automatically in the background. Now, that's unfortunately not part of Vault Basic, but it's Vault Professional. And those are the things that can happen when I start using my lifecycle states. It's just about finished. Okay. So here's my PDF file. It's released. It matches the rev. Everything looks good. So now if I want to copy design this, this is Inside of Vault, this is actually the way to do it, is I right-click on the file, copy design. So this is, bring this up here a little bit, you can see this. This is a separate application that runs within the Vault, and it's called copy design. And it's truly all of this is only designed to do this one aspect. Now, when I look at this, the only thing I see is the model. I don't see the drawing. I don't need to see the drawing. Drawings will automatically be linked and copied in the background. I don't have to do anything about those. There's no secondary search. It's done. Now, if I right-click and do copy, you can see it has a prefix, copy of. Now, if I choose to, I can come in here and I can change this. I can change all of this to, let's say, Julian is doing this one. So this looks good. And all I have to do now is hit execute copy. But now this is much better than what we were doing in the past. So I'm going to execute copy. Do a refresh. And here is Juliana's file. Now, let's take a look at this. I'm going to open it. So I use Vault to do a copy design much quicker, right? Right-click, copy design, give it a new name, and off I go. So here's the file. The problem is this information is still old. It still has the drawn by, the check by, and the approved by. I need to clear those out. So some of the things that we can actually do is we can use the system to do that. But what I want to show you first of all is, let me close these files. So right now I was typing in the file name. I typed in, JM as the prefix. So Vault Basic does not have this. Vault Professional does. When I create a new file, I'll create a new model. I'll just do a simple little cylinder. When I save this, I got to turn that back on. Vault Professional gives you this automatic file numbering. And I shut it off as I was preparing for another demonstration I did yesterday. So I'm going to put them back on. So I have some naming conventions. So I'm make these back active. So when I do bolted connections, I like to use my bolted connection naming. So it's BC-whatever. So I have unique file naming. For my frames, frame generator, I have some samples. I even have a sequential. Let's say I want to create an MTC number. I'm just going to do a new numbering scheme. I'm going to call it MTC. I'm going to have some fixed text first of all. This is going to be type, and the fixed text will be MTC. I can build all kinds of strategies into this. I'm going to do a delimiter. I'll do a dash, and then I will do auto-generated index. I'll make it 5 digits. And let's say you have some existing numbers with this. Let's start at 1005. And sequential will be my default. So now when I do save, it's going to default to sequential. It's going to give me the next sequential number system in the system. So Vault will distribute the file names for you. You don't have to think about those. Now, if I choose to, I can drop this down and I can do MTC. So it'll be MTC-whatever, and it's going to give me the first starting value based on my numbering scheme that I defined. So I'm going to hit accept to that. You can see it's going to give me the next starting number. So those are numbering schemes. I don't have to think about that. The reason why I did that, when I go to Vault and I go back to my original file and I copy design, copy. My changed scheme is what they call the numbering scheme. It's blank. I don't know why, but by default, the copy design does not display your file numbering schemes. You actually have to turn them on. So under options, numbering schemes, configure, you just turn them on. So we have some companies that have 2 or 3 numbering schemes. I have one that has 60. So instead of seeing all 60, they can choose to see the ones they need as they're using it. So they can be very granular as far as what they see for the numbering schemes. But once they're on, this is a permanent, it's a preserved value. Once it's on, it's on. So I want to go back to reuse. Now when I go back to copy, it goes back to the prefix. It's not using the numbering schemes. I have to tell it what I want to use. Change scheme to be whatever I want. Now that'll give me the next numbering scheme that I want to choose to use. Now I'll go back to reuse. If you know what you want to do ahead of time, you can just change it here. I'll go to MTC and copy. It'll just give me that value. By changing this doesn't do anything. It just changes your default for the next one that you want to do. So I do frame, change scheme to frame. It'll update it. So that's something that you have to do. But these files will use your automatic numbering to give you the most consistent numbering schemes built in. And they're always going to give you unique files, unique file names, which is something that we're looking for. But the problem is we're still hitting, we're not changing those values of those I properties. It's the drawn by, the check by, the approved by, it's still in the system. We're not clearing that out. So copy design is great. This is the way to do this, is this using this copy design. I copy the model, I get the drawing, everything looks good, but I still have to edit those properties to clear them out. So what we have the ability to do here is they're called rules or action rules. We can actually define those. So this is the default rule. If we look at that, it's all grayed out. You can't do anything. And the only thing it's doing is it's mapping the part number to match the file name. So as you change and copy and change your file name, you want the part number to match. And as far as Vault Professional using categories, it's going to reset the category information. So what I need to do is I need a little bit more power within this. So what I'm going to do is create a new action rule. And we'll call this MTC user group UG. So my criteria is any file. File name contains, oops. Now, as I'm building these rules, so Doug's on the line here. So Doug, if you create this rule, when Ralph goes to use the copy design, these rules will be available to him. So they're not unique to your machine. This is global. Everyone will have access to these. So I want to change everything. So now the first thing I'm looking at is, let's go back to this guy. I'm really concerned about author. And what I want to do is when I do a copy design, I'm going to set the value as the user. So the author will get changed to the user of Vault. So whoever is doing this, it's going to swap out the author with this particular username. So that's the first thing I want to do. Then I'm looking for date file created, copy date. So the author is going to be mapped to user, and the date file created is going to be mapped to the copy date. Now the other ones I want to get rid of are the check by, set blank, check date, blank, and then how about the manufacturers? Approved by, and approved by date. Okay, so we hit OK to this. So I just created a new action rule. Let me get out of this. Now let's go back to my original file. Copy design. It's not in here. I have to add it. Every time I make a new rule, I have to add it as one of the available criterias. I can drop this down. Now I can use my new rule. And I'm going to use, let's do sample, copy. Now the other thing is I want to copy it somewhere else. So So I am going to copy to a different folder. Let's put it in the training folder. So I can just change the path. I'm creating a new file, I'm copying it, and where do I want to place it? Now the file that I'm copying is released. So this is going to be a brand new file. So it's not going to match the rev. It's going to be a brand new file, and it's going to have my initial revision. I'll hit execute. And that's done. I'll go to training. Here's my new file. I see my drawing. I see the part. I open it up. And all my fields are set. I'm ready to go. So the very quick copy design, I'm copying the file. I'm changing the author. I'm changing the creation date. This is all cleared out. So I won't accidentally print this out. When someone's seeing this, they're going to say, hey, this is an approved drawing. So if you have document control, that's something to me is really important. Now you need to make sure that when you're doing a copy, you're really addressing all of the different rules and standards that your company might have in place. So this is great for part files, but it also works even better for assemblies. So let's go into Vault once more. Let's get a little information from the users. It's been quiet. Did anyone see anything new that they can use this afternoon when they go back to work? Curious?
I'm sorry, my audio was off. Did you say something?
I was asking the users if they have seen anything so far that they could actually make use of this afternoon.
Anybody? Because I have a question, but it's a really general one. It's
Okay.
not bulb related, but like, what is your favorite feature from the last Inventor release? Like, what is the thing that you say, oh, thank God they did this?
No, that's a good question. I got to think about that one.
Or maybe like a cool one that you use, because usually they're like user requested features, if I'm not wrong.
A lot of them are.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Let me think about that, because 23 did not have a lot of new things, but starting with 21, I'd have to say probably my favorite features are the frame generator, new additions to that, the property panels, and just how the frame generator works. It's more visual, more dynamic. I can see everything much more dynamically than before. The other, I'd have to say probably the other one is the iLogic. The additions to iLogic.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say iLogic.
So iLogic, this is not in 23, but this came out a couple of releases ago, where I can actually now place components using conditional rules versus having to suppress them. So those are probably my top two.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, just a reminder for everyone, you can ask a question here on the left-hand corner. We also offer group classes online. So if you want to learn these topics in detail, you can always take a custom training with Jim or someone else on our team. We also offer group classes online. So yeah, I forgot to tell you all, this webinar recording will be available on our YouTube channel. So yeah, make sure to check our YouTube channel so you can, share with colleagues or rewatch it on your own time. So yeah, be sure to be checking the MicroCAD website for future webinars. And if there's no questions, I think that concluded our webinar today.
Almost. I just got one last thing to show everyone, and then we can wrap it up.
Please.
So when we talk about assembly files in the copy design, I was asking the question if anyone had seen anything before I got into this next feature. I'm just curious. Again, I'm trying to be a little more interactive. It's kind of quiet on this end. So
yeah.
From you. So I'm going to do a copy design of an assembly. So what I like about this is when you're looking at this, actually the library components will not display. This one is not the best example because these were not in the right path. Make sure I had that shut off. Yeah, library files is off. All right. So when I want to do an assembly file, what I really like about this is I can actually customize or choose columns, and I want the thumbnail. So it's a little nuances here. So if I take the thumbnail and drag it over, that really helps. There they go. That time it displayed really quick. Sometimes you have to do a refresh. If you add a column like that, sometimes you have to get out and get back in. So what I want to do is I'm going to set this to my new action rule. MTC is a good numbering scheme that I want to use. I want to copy the top level assembly. Now, the other thing is if you want to copy everything, you just do copy branch. I want to copy everything. If you don't, just reuse branch, get back to the beginning stages. I just want to copy the assembly. And what I'm looking at doing, this table plate, I don't want to use this one. I want to use a different one. I can actually replace this with a different one that I have in my system. So under designs, components. So it's going to swap this out. Now, what I want you to see here are these panels on the right-hand side. I've gotten a lot of feedback from the users about these panels, like what are they and why on some computers they're not actually there. So under options, actually, I'm sorry, under view panels, by default, a lot of these aren't even displayed, and I don't know why, but it varies depending on the system. There really should be a show all panels. So the panels are really helpful to find out what's going on. What are you doing? So under view panels, you really want these on. And again, this is a persistent setting. These panels are very, very helpful. So that you can see what is happening when you actually hit execute. For instance, these are my folders. This is showing me the files that I have. Oh, someone's on the phone. And then for my numbering, this is going to really
in the middle of the Zoom meeting. Wow.
Leanna,
synopsis.
I can hear you. So,
no, that was Kim Palumbo talking.
So in the numbering scheme, what we can actually do is find out what we're doing where. So for instance, do I have anything renumbered with sequential? No. Am I using MTC? Yes. These are the files that I'm renaming. So if I went to, or say the handle cap, and I change that to copy, and let's change that scheme to sequential. Now, if I go to sequential, I'll see what file is getting that numbering scheme, what file is getting this numbering scheme. So it's more of a filter. So basically like carpentry, measure twice, cut once. You can look at what's happening before you actually hit execute. Because if you're not careful, if you're doing a lot of these copy designs and just hit execute, you're creating a lot of garbage in your vault. A lot of files are getting copied all over the place. You're not exactly sure where they are. Then under my where used, I can see source and destination. If that's used anywhere, I can see that. But what I really like is under the actions, I can see what I'm copying, everything that I'm reusing, anything that I'm replacing. So everything works really well here. So this is more of a filter. And in the numbering, you can actually change a few things. So like if I go to, let's go back to sequential, I can change that back to MTC. I made a mistake there. So again, I'm looking, making sure everything's the way that I need it to be done. Once I'm satisfied with all of this, then I will hit execute. I close out of it. Here's my new file. What does it use? It's using the new table plate. So and these are just really niceties. I mean, you could always just copy the assembly, open it up and do the replace yourself. But if you already know ahead of time, you can really save yourself a lot of time just by doing it in the actual copy design process. You can even exclude components. That copy design is something that you want to look at. And I really encourage you to start using it, even if it's in Vault Basic. I can't show Vault Basic today because my server is Vault Professional and I can't mix them. so I really can't show that. Vault Basic does a really good job with the copy design. It's not as powerful. I don't have the ability to create those action rules. I don't have the file numbering, but it's still better than using Design Assistant or doing it manually the old-fashioned way. So with that, I do thank you for your time. We went a little bit over, but again, this is the user group, and it's not about the presentation. We always try to show something, but it's really about interacting. Do you guys have any questions, any comments, any criticisms as far as MicroCAD, Autodesk, upgrades, anything that you need to know? We're here for you, and we'd love to answer any of the questions that you might have. Now, with that, my presentation is done. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tim. And I'm so sorry. I was going to cut you off. That is
All right.
rude.
No, no worries.
Sorry. But no, yeah. As a reminder for everybody, you can check this in our YouTube channel if you were not able to attend or whatever. And also, I wanted to mention our upcoming webinars. We have realism and walkthroughs, Enscape and Revit webinar on November 3rd. And we have a Scan to BIM with Autodesk and Leica Technology webinar on November 10th. You can go to our websites, to our events section. You will find there all of our events, our coming events, and the register link. So you can register and you don't miss them. And I don't know if you have anything else to share. Jim?
I'm all set at this point, and if anyone needs to see anything or wants me to maybe go over what I've done in the presentation again, maybe look a little bit more detailed, I'd be happy to. Just let us know.
Yeah, let us know if anybody has any questions. Don't miss the chance to resolve whatever question you have.
I'll be glad when these are live again.
Me too.
Yeah, this works. We do get to interact, but it's not as good as it was in the past. So hopefully next year we'll be going back to some events.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think that concludes our webinar today. Thank you, Jim, so much. I think it will be very good to do a Vault webinar in the future, so we can just dig bigger and for example, show with Vault Basic. If anybody has any questions, we can show that. So yeah, just make sure to check our website for future webinars. And that concluded this webinar. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jim.